The vast darkness of space near the Charybdis 9 Nebula was not peaceful. It felt like a room where someone had just stopped talking. Commander Lee Haniel felt this silence on the command deck of her ship, the UCN Dauntless. Her hands were clasped behind her back. Her eyes were fixed on the main screen. The screen showed the beautiful colors of the nebula. Swirls of purple and blue gas hid the stars behind it. To any other fleet, it was just a pretty space cloud. To Haniel, it was a stage. And the play was about to begin. Her captain, Park J, walked up beside her. He spoke in a low voice so only she could hear. The last signal from the Cathari fleet was 2 days ago. Their path led away from here, toward the gibbous cluster. It looks like they are running from us. Haniel gave a small shake of her head. Her black hair was tied tightly back. It looks like that because they want it to look like that, Jay. They are very good actors. She touched a control on her chair. The beautiful nebula on the screen vanished. It was replaced by a confusing web of lines and numbers. It looked like a mad scientist's scribbles. This is the truth. Lieutenant Kim, tell him. At her station, Lieutenant Kim Minji sat up straight. She was young and very sharp. Her station was covered not with pictures of stars, but with these strange data streams. She pointed to a section of the web. See these patterns? They look like random space noise, but they are too regular. The quantum particles here, she pointed, are moving wrong. It's like seeing the shape of a foot in wet sand, but the foot itself is invisible. The sand just remembers the shape. Park J frowned. You are saying there are ships inside the nebula? Big ones, Minji said. Many of them. Their cloaking technology is perfect for normal sight. It bends light and absorbs our scans, but it cannot hide its effect on space itself. It cannot hide from the ghost rig. The ghost rig, that was the real name of their weapon. But it did not shoot. It listened. It was a giant, galaxy-wide network of special listening posts. They did not listen for radio signals. They listened for the quiet. They felt the tiny, tiny push on space that a big ship's mass made. They saw the little shiver in the rules of physics when a cloaked ship's engine was idle. It made a map of nothing. And on that map, the enemy was perfectly clear. Haniel turned her chair to face Park J. The entire Cathari 7th Flotilla is in there. They are waiting. Our planned patrol route goes right through that thin, clear path in the nebula gases. She pointed to a tunnel on the old star map. It is a perfect trap. They would see us first. They would have all the advantages. Park J felt his stomach tighten. That patrol route was standard. It was in the official fleet orders. Anyone could know it. So we change course. We go around. No, Haniel said, a cold light in her eyes. We go in. Before Jay could argue, she continued. They think they are the hunters in the tall grass. We will let them think that. But we will be the hunters who can see in the dark. She looked over to the communication station. Ensign Song, is our little show ready? Ensign Song Hyan was a quiet man who loved puzzles. His job was to make signals and break them. He nodded. Yes, Commander. The decoy buoy is active. It is sending out a perfect copy of a damaged Cathari scout ship's distress call. It is loud and panicked. Their listening posts on the far side of the gibbous cluster will hear it. They will think one of their lost ships has been found and is calling for help. A perfect piece of theater. The Cathari commanders would hear the distress call. They would see the human fleet change course slightly, as if interested in this new signal. They would laugh to themselves. They would think the humans were taking the bait, chasing a ghost while walking into a real trap. It would make them more sure, more confident. Haniel stood up. The command deck was quiet. Everyone was looking at her. This is what we will do. We will proceed toward the nebula. We will follow the patrol route exactly. We will look blind and normal. But inside, we will be using the Ghost Rig's map. Lieutenant Kim, you will be our eyes. You will tell me where every one of their ships is hiding. Not where they might be, where they are. Kim Minji nodded, her face serious. I will, Commander. Captain J, Haniel said. You will prepare the fleet for battle, but do it quietly. No extra power to the engines. No active weapon scans. Make it look like we are just cruising, but have every gun loaded and ready. Have every fighter pilot in their seat, waiting for my word. Park J saluted. It will be done. Ensign Song, she said. You will watch their communications. Listen for any change in their pattern, any sign they suspect. But do not break their codes. Just listen to the tone. Is it calm? Is it excited? Understood, Song Hyan said. Commander Lee Haniel walked to the big window at the front of the command deck. The nebula was growing larger on the screen. It looked like a storm cloud in space, beautiful and deadly. She spoke to her crew, her voice clear and firm. The Cathari think they are smarter. They think their technology is better. They think they have set a perfect trap. They believe they will win a great victory here today and break our spirit. She turned to face them. They are wrong. Their greatest strength is their cloak. Our greatest strength is not our guns. It is our patience. It is our will to watch and to wait while they think we are blind. Today, we do not fight a stronger enemy. We fight an enemy that does not know it is already seen. She sat back in her command chair. It felt solid beneath her. All ships, move forward. Take us into the nebula's shadow. Follow the standard patrol path. Look normal. Be ready. Throughout the human fleet, the order was passed. Engines hummed softly. Ships turned in formation. From the outside, it looked like any other day. A routine patrol. A quiet journey through a beautiful, empty part of space. But inside the ships, it was different. Crew members moved with quiet purpose. Weapons officers input targeting data that came not from their scanners, but from a separate, secret data feed, the feed from the Ghost Rig. Pilots in their fighters saw small red dots appear on their private maps, showing them exactly where the enemy was hiding in the colorful gas. The Dauntless led the way. The giant mouth of the nebula's clear path opened up before them. On the surface, everything was calm. On Commander Haniel's private screen, the web of data from Kim Minji was alive with activity. Dozens of red shapes, each representing a deadly Cathari warship, were arranged in a deadly circle around the human fleet's path. The trap was set. Haniel allowed herself a small, hard smile. The enemy was waiting. They were watching the human ships sail slowly into the perfect kill zone. They were probably counting down the seconds until they could decloak and fire. What they did not know, what they could not possibly know, was that the humans were watching them right back. Every move they had made to get here, every silent adjustment of their position, had been seen. The perfect ambush was about to begin. But the hunters and the prey were not who they seemed. The command vessel of the Cathari was called Essence of Will. It was a ship of smooth, dark metal that seemed to drink the light from the stars. Inside its main chamber, Supreme Commander Korval rested in a living chair made of hard vines and polished bone. It watched the tactical sphere floating in the center of the room. The sphere showed the nebula as a soft, colorful cloud. Inside that cloud, 37 blue icons sat perfectly still. They were the Cathari ships, silent and invisible. A smaller, separate group of red icons moved slowly along a clear path through the nebula. These were the human ships. They moved in a tight group, their formations neat and predictable. Korval felt a pulse of deep satisfaction moved through its body. Its species did not smile, but the gentle sway of its upper tendrils showed its pleasure. "They come," it chimed. Its voice was not made by a mouth, but by rubbing parts of its hard shell together, creating a musical sound. They follow their routine like insects following a scent trail. Their arrogance is their weakness. They believe their electronic eyes can see all. A subordinate commander chimed back, its tone respectful. "Their formation is perfect for our crossfire. Their shields are oriented forward, expecting danger from the open space ahead. They do not look into the clouds beside them." "They will look when it is too late," Corval chimed. "When our light fills their viewports and their ships turn to dust." It watched the red icons creep closer to the center of the blue circle. The humans were now fully inside the trap. Every Cathari ship had a clear line of fire. "Prepare the primary weapons. Power the plasma lances. On my signal, drop the cloaks and fire. We will erase them in one beautiful moment of light." Across the hidden Cathari fleet, gunners and weapon masters made final preparations. Great banks of energy capacitors hummed to life. Long tubes of superheated plasma glowed with a fierce, contained light. All of this energy was hidden perfectly. To human scanners, the nebula remained a peaceful, if colorful, void. On the bridge of the UCN Dauntless, the mood was very different. It was quiet, but it was the quiet of a coiled spring. Commander Lee Haniel sat in her chair, looking calm. Her main screen showed the standard view, the colorful gases of the nebula drifting past. It was a beautiful sight. But on a smaller private screen on her chair's arm, she watched a very different picture. This screen showed Kim Minji's map from the ghost rig. The nebula was gone. In its place was a simple black grid. On that grid, 37 pale white outlines glowed softly. Each outline was the shape of a Cathari warship. Some were shaped like sharp spears. Others were like fat beetles. They were arranged in a wide circle around the position of the human fleet. Minji's voice was soft and nigh Hanuel's ear through a private channel. "All hostiles are holding position. I am detecting new energy signatures from 17 of the outlines. Significant power buildup. The patterns match known Cathari primary weapon systems. They are charging their main guns, Commander." Hanuel gave a small nod, almost to herself. They were getting ready to shoot. She looked at her main screen, at the beautiful, deadly gas. The enemy was right there, looking at her, finger on the trigger. And her own fleet had to act like they saw nothing. "Captain J," she said. Her voice normal. Park J turned from his station. "Commander? Order a standard navigational scan of the forward path. Use active sensors. Make it look routine." J understood. They had to pretend to be blind. "Yes, Commander." A pulse of energy shot from the Dauntless and bounced off the nebula ahead. On the Cathari ship, Corval saw the scan and chimed with amusement. "They look where they think the danger is. They see nothing. Their confusion will be their last feeling." On the Dauntless, Ensign Song Hyon watched his own screens. He was not listening to Cathari messages. That was impossible while they were silent. He was listening to the universe. He monitored the background noise of space. And right now, he was watching the decoy. A small light blinked on his panel. "Commander," he said, "the decoy buoy in the Gibbous cluster has been engaged. A Cathari patrol ship is answering the distress call. They are sending a confirmation signal back to their command." Hanuel's eyes narrowed. Good. That was the final piece of the play. The Cathari High Command would now get a report. The report would say that a lost Cathari scout had been found, and that the humans were interested in it. This would make Corval even more sure. It would think the human commander was distracted, chasing a false lead. "Thank you, Ensign," Hanuel said. She looked back at Minji's ghost map. The pale outlines were now highlighted with faint orange glows at their front ends. Their weapons were almost ready. Time? Haniel asked quietly. Kim Minji's answer was immediate. Based on energy rise rates, they will reach full weapon power in 4 minutes and 10 seconds. That is the most likely moment for them to attack. 4 minutes. Haniel took a slow breath. She pressed a button on her chair. A soft, low tone sounded across the Dauntless and was repeated on every ship in the human fleet. It was not a loud alarm. It was the silent alert. Every crew member knew what it meant. Battle was coming. Now, all through the human ships, people moved. Hatches sealed with soft thumps. Pilots in fighter bays put on their helmets. Engineers in engine rooms made final checks. Gunners sat down at their control stations. But they did not use their normal targeting computers. Those computers would send out probing signals that the enemy could detect. Instead, they received a steady stream of data from the Ghost rig. On their screens, crosshairs were already locked over empty space. But they knew the empty space was not empty. They trusted the map. Park J moved to the main weapons console. His fingers flew over the controls, assigning targets. Ship A would target enemy outline number 7. Ship B would target outlines 12 and 13. The Dauntless would take the biggest one, outline number 1, which was likely the enemy flagship. It was a complex dance planned in total silence. Corval watched the human fleet on its sphere. The red icons had stopped moving. They were just sitting there, inside the circle of blue icons. It felt another tremor of that strange unease. Why would they stop? Was it a malfunction? A last-minute caution? It studied the human formation. They were not turning. They were not running. They were just waiting. Do they suspect? It chimed to its second. Impossible, the second chimed back. Our cloak is perfect. They have no technology that can see us. They are probably doing some last-minute system check. Or they have detected a minor anomaly in the gas and are being cautious. It changes nothing. They are still in the trap. Corval forced its body to relax. Its subordinate was right. Human paranoia was well known. Sometimes they stopped for no reason. It was a minor delay. The end was the same. Move all vessels to final attack positions, Corval chimed. Keep the cloak at maximum. At my signal, reveal and fire. The silence ends in 3 minutes. On the Dauntless, the clock in Haniel's mind ticked down. The bridge was so quiet, she could hear the soft hum of the life support system. Her crew worked without speaking. Their faces were focused, lit by the soft glow of their screens. All ships report silent battle stations ready. Park J whispered. Neul looked at her private screen. The orange glows on the white outlines were bright now. The enemy weapons were fully charged. They were ready to fire. She imagined the Cathari gunners, their hands on the controls, waiting for the order. They were looking at their own screens, which showed the human ships sitting still, perfect targets. They thought the humans were blind animals in a field. They thought they were about to win a great victory. Lee Haniel leaned forward in her chair. She placed her fingers on the command interface. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was clear and calm, carrying across the silent bridge. All units. This is the commander. Stand by. We fire in 30 seconds. The silence in the nebula was complete. It was a heavy, waiting silence. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Commander Haniel's voice had faded, and the final seconds were ticking down in everyone's mind. 10 seconds, Park J said, his voice a low rumble in the quiet. Kim Minji watched her ghost map. The pale white outlines of the enemy ships glowed steadily. The orange energy signatures at their fronts were like burning eyes. She could almost feel the Cathari commanders, their tendrils poised, ready to give the order to decloak and unleash hell. She took a slow breath. All targets are stable. Weapons are at full charge. 5 seconds. On the essence of will, Corval felt a final, pure moment of certainty. The human ships were motionless. They were perfect targets. Its musical voice chimed the command across the fleet. Now, reveal and fire. Let the void bear witness to their end. At that exact moment, Commander Haniel said, now. What happened next was not a battle. It was a reversal. Space did not erupt from the colorful nebula clouds as planned. Instead, it erupted from the human fleet. But it was not a wild, panicked fire. It was precise, cold, and surgical. From the sides of the human cruisers, hundreds of missiles shot out into the empty space. But they did not fly in a spreading wave. Each missile made a sharp turn the moment it left its launch tube. They streaked away from the human formation, not forward into the clear path, but sideways, into the seemingly empty walls of the nebula itself, not at the same instant. Every human ship's secondary weapons, their point defense cannons and mid-range beam projectors, swiveled and fired. Bright lines of energy cut through the void. They were not firing at anything a normal person could see. They were firing at specific coordinates, at empty patches of colorful gas. The Thari gunners never got to press their firing buttons. The first sign of disaster for Chor Val was a scream of data from its sensor master. The claw of victory. It is hit. It is breaking apart. On Corval's tactical sphere, one of the serene blue icons, the symbol for the powerful cruiser claw of victory, flashed a terrible red and then vanished. The sphere showed the human missiles, tiny red dots, curving in impossible arcs and slamming directly into the position of the cloaked ship. A second later, the human energy beams sliced through the same spot. The claw of victory decloaked not as a predator, but as a funeral pyre. One moment there was nothing but nebula. The next, a violent flower of fire and tearing metal bloomed silently in the purple gas. The great ship broke into 2 pieces, the light of the explosion painting the surrounding clouds in a brief, ugly yellow. Impossible. Corval's chime was a shriek of broken crystal. How are they targeting us? Chaos exploded across the Thari fleet. The perfect, silent ambush was gone. Panic took its place. Commanders chimed orders over each other. Decloak. Decloak and return fire. They can see us. All around the human fleet, space began to warp and shimmer. The beautiful nebula twisted as massive Thari warships dropped their cloaks. But they did not appear in the powerful, organized arc of the trap. They appeared one by one, in disarray. Some were already on fire. Others were turning desperately, trying to bring their guns to bear on enemies that were already shooting at them. The human fleet, in contrast, moved with a terrible calm. Captain Park J called out orders. Helm, bring us to bearing 020. Main battery, target the largest vessel. That's their command ship. Fire. The Dauntless turned smoothly. Its massive primary cannon, a magnetic accelerator that fired a slug of metal at a fraction of light speed, glowed with power. It fired. There was no bright beam, just a deep thrum that vibrated through the ship's hull. A fraction of a second later, the round hit the shields of the newly revealed essence of will. The shields flashed a brilliant, straining blue and then failed. The slug tore into the dark hull, leaving a scar of molten metal. The human fighters, which had been sitting quietly in their bays, launched. They did not fly out in a confused swarm. They flew in neat squadrons, each squadron heading for a specific, already damaged Thari ship. They weaved through the suddenly crowded space, their own small guns adding to the storm of fire. Ensign Song Hyan watched the communications traffic. It was a flood now. The Cathari were no longer silent. They were screaming at each other on every channel, cries for help, demands for orders, reports of damage. The tone was not of anger, but of utter confusion and growing fear. They had been the hunters. Now they were the ones being hunted, and they did not understand how it had happened. Kim Minji's work was more crucial than ever. The Ghost Rig's map was updating constantly. As the Cathari ships moved, their white outlines moved on her screen. She watched as one enemy cruiser tried to slide behind a thick cloud of nebula dust, hoping to recloak. She saw its outline clearly. Target Alpha 7 is attempting to disengage behind the dust cluster at Mark 4. They are vulnerable. Hanul heard her. Signal the frigates Courage and Swift. Encircle that dust cluster. They are not to escape. 2 smaller human ships broke from the main group. They sped toward the dust cloud, their weapons already firing into it, forcing the hiding Cathari ship to either stay and be hit or flee back into the open. Corval gripped the arms of its living chair. The essence of will shuddered from another hit. Alarms chimed throughout its chamber. Its perfect plan was ashes. Its fleet was being taken apart piece by piece. The humans were not just fighting back. They were anticipating every move. They knew where to shoot before the Cathari ships even finished their turns. A terrible, cold understanding began to dawn in Corval's mind. This was not luck. This was not a guess. The humans had a tool that saw through the perfect cloak. They had been seen the whole time. The trap had been for the trappers. Rage, hot and desperate, replaced its confusion. It could not win this battle, but it could hurt them. It could find their secret and break it. Forget the human warships. Corval chimed, its voice cutting through the panic on its own bridge. Find their sensor. They are receiving data from somewhere. Find the source of their sight and destroy it. Chaos ruled the Cathari fleet. Ships that were built for stealth and surprise now flailed in the open, burning and broken. But Supreme Commander Corval's mind, sharp with panic and rage, began to focus on a single burning thought. The humans could not simply see them. They were being told where to look. There was a source, a signal, a crack in their perfect blindness. On the bridge of the essence of will, it shoved a subordinate aside and pressed its own manipulator limbs against the analysis console. Data streamed past. It filtered out the screams of its dying ships and looked for patterns in the human attack. The human missiles did not search. They flew straight to targets hidden by light-bending cloaks. Their energy beams fired at empty space that just happened to contain a ship. This was not radar. This was a map. They are receiving targeting data. Corval chimed, the sound harsh. It is a passive feed. They are not scanning us. They are listening to someone else who is. Its complex brain, evolved for puzzle solving and ambush, raced. Find the broadcast. Trace the signal back to its origin. Every weapon we have left, target that. The order went out to the surviving Cathari ships. They stopped trying to fight the human warships directly. It was a losing fight. Instead, the remaining sensor specialists began a frantic, desperate search. They looked for any whisper of a transmission, aimed at the human fleet. Not a loud broadcast, but a subtle, hidden stream of numbers. On the Dauntless, the mood was one of controlled intensity. They were winning. Captain Park J directed fire coolly. Target their engine clusters. Cripple them. Don't waste energy on kills. The human fleet was tightening the noose, methodically breaking the Cathari formation apart. Then, Kim Minji saw a change on her ghost map. The white outlines of the enemy ships were not just moving randomly anymore. They were shifting, turning their noses away from the human fleet. Their weapons' power was dipping. But a new kind of energy spike was appearing focused, Narrow beam sensor scans. Commander, Minji said, her voice tight. They've stopped focusing on us. They are conducting intense, directed scans of Sector Echo 7 and Sector Kilo 2. They are looking for something specific. Commander Haniel leaned forward. Echo 7 and Kilo 2 were not random. They were grid coordinates. Locations in empty space where the Ghost Rig's local relay buoys were positioned. They were simple, rugged boxes floating in the dark, collecting the faint whispers of the universe and passing the data quietly along the network. They found the decoys, Haniel said, not with worry, but with understanding. Ensign Songhayan nodded from his station. They are pouring active sensor energy into those areas, trying to illuminate any hidden object. They will find the buoys soon. The buoys have no shields, no armor. A smile touched Haniel's lips. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of someone whose opponent had finally taken the wrong bait. They think they are cutting the head off the snake. Let them. She opened a fleet-wide channel, her voice utterly calm. All units. The enemy is shifting focus to secondary targets in sectors Echo 7 and Kilo 2. Do not interfere. Let them believe they are succeeding. Continue primary objective. Disable all remaining Cathari warships. A Cathari destroyer, its hull scarred from beam fire, powered up its last working heavy laser. It was not aiming at a human ship. It aimed at a point in empty space in Sector Echo 7. It fired. The bright red lance cut through the void. For a second, nothing happened. Then, a small, silent explosion bloomed a flash of light and expanding debris. The Ghost Rig's relay buoy Echo 7 was gone. On the Cathari bridge, a technician chimed with triumph. A hit! We have destroyed a human relay device in Sector Echo 7. The signal from that sector is gone. Corval felt a surge of vicious hope. Good, find the next one. Destroy them all. Blind them. Another Cathari cruiser, limping from missile damage, turned its weapons towards Sector Kilo 2. It unleashed a volley of kinetic projectiles. A few moments later, another small, distant spark announced the destruction of relay buoy Kilo 2. Second relay destroyed. The technician chimed .cho rival, watched the tactical sphere. The human fleet's movements were still precise. They were still hitting its ships. The destruction of the relays had done nothing. The hope curdled into confusion, then into a colder, deeper fear. Why are they not slowing? Why are they not confused? Find the real source. The Cathari were sacrificing their last strength, using precious power and attention to blow up pieces of space junk, while the human guns continued to tear them apart. Each buoy they destroyed was a victory that felt hollow, because the humans did not seem to care at all. Kim Minji watched it happen on her screen. Two of her data source markers winked from green to gray. Gone. But the flow of data to her station did not hesitate. It did not even flicker. The Ghost Rig was not a chain with links. It was a web, a net. Cut one thread, and the others simply tightened, taking up the load. The real processing was done inside the human ships themselves, sharing the data peer-to-peer. The buoys were just listeners, not brains. They are wasting their fire. Commander, Minji reported, a note of awe in her voice. The network is redistributing. We have lost zero targeting resolution. They are fighting ghosts. Haniel nodded. She watched as the essence of will, having spent time and energy destroying a buoy, was punished for its distraction. The human cruiser Vigilant fired a full spread of torpedoes into its side. The Cathari flagship's shields, already weak, collapsed completely. Gouts of atmosphere and fire erupted from its hull. They are looking for a single eye to put out, Haniel said to her bridge crew, her voice quiet but carrying. But we do not have one eye. We have 1,000,000. Every ship, every buoy, every passive satellite in this sector is a piece of a larger mind. You cannot make the universe stop speaking to us by breaking a single ear. Corval finally understood. It was not a device. It was a system, a way of thinking. The humans had turned the silent void itself into their ally. Every star, every wisp of gas, every ripple in the fabric of space was a potential informant. To stop them, you would have to silence the cosmos. The realization was a colder, more devastating hit than any plasma bolt. They had not just lost a battle. They had been outthought on a fundamental level. With a last, shuddering chime of despair, Corval gave the only order it had left. All remaining vessels, break contact, retreat, scatter and retreat. The battle is lost. The few Cathari ships that could still move turned away from the human fleet. They turned away from the decoy buoys they had been so desperately hunting. They fled into the deep, twisting currents of the Charybdis 9 Nebula, not as hunters, but as broken prey, vanishing into the colored mists from which they had first planned their perfect attack. The last of the Cathari ships vanished into the swirling colors of the nebula. The violet light of explosions faded, leaving behind only the quiet glow of stars and the drifting, expanding fields of debris. On the bridge of the Dauntless, the bright flashes on the main screen were replaced by the calm, slow dance of wreckage, and Gastot the silence returned. But this time it was different. It was the silence after a storm. A tired, good silence. Captain Park J let out a long, slow breath. His shoulders, which had been tense for hours, finally relaxed. He looked at the damage reports scrolling down his screen. They had losses. Some ships were hurt. Some good people were gone. But they had won. Against a perfect trap, they had won completely. The remaining enemy forces are in full retreat. No pursuit signals detected. The field is ours, Commander. Commander Lee Haniel nodded. She stayed in her chair, watching the debris field grow still. Her face showed little emotion, but her eyes were sharp, taking in the result of their work. Order rescue and recovery operations. Priority to our own life pods. Then, salvage what intelligence we can from their wrecks. Be careful of secondary explosions. Yes, Commander, Jay said, turning to relay the orders. His voice was steady now, filled with the calm of a job well done. Around the bridge, the crew began the next phase of their duty. The urgent tension of battle softened into the focused rhythm of cleanup. Kim Minji still watched her ghost map. The pale white outlines were all gone. The nebula on her screen was empty of threats. She leaned back in her chair, feeling a deep tiredness in her bones. Her mind had been racing for so long, following the dance of invisible ships. Now it was quiet. She allowed herself a small, private smile. Ensign Song Hyan monitored the communications mans. The screaming panic of the Cathari had faded into nothing. Now the airwaves were filled with the calm, professional chatter of human rescue coordinators and damage control teams. He pulled off his headset and rubbed his ears. The silence in his own mind was a relief. A soft chime sounded on Haniel's command console. A priority channel encrypted. It was from Fleet Command. She pressed a button to accept. The image of Admiral Kwan appeared on her screen. His face was lined with age and experience, his hair gray and cut short. His eyes were the kind that had seen many battles. Right now, they held a look of quiet appraisal. Commander Lee, he said, his voice gravelly but clear. We have been monitoring the situation from the command nexus. Your fleet has gone silent in a contested zone. Then we detected major energy discharges. Give me your report. Haniel sat up a little straighter. Admiral, we engaged the Cathari 7th Flotilla in the Charybdis 9 Nebula. They had set a full ambush, lying in wait with cloaked ships along our standard patrol route. Admiral Kwan's eyebrows raised slightly. An ambush. And the result? The ambush was reversed, sir. The enemy flotilla has been destroyed or routed. We control the area. Recovery operations are underway. Our losses are acceptable, far lower than they otherwise would have been. The Admiral was quiet for a moment. He was a careful man. He knew what an ambush by a cloaked Kithari fleet meant. It usually meant a funeral report. Reversed? Explain. We had advance warning of their exact positions and battle readiness, Admiral. The ghost rig performed as designed. We saw every move they made from the moment they entered the nebula. We allowed them to believe we were blind, and we walked into their trap knowing exactly where every gun was pointed. We fired first. A long pause stretched over the link. Admiral Kwan was absorbing this. The ghost rig was his project, his life's work. He had argued for it, fought for its funding, believed in it when others called it a waste. This was its first real test in a major fleet engagement. Casualty estimates for the enemy? He asked finally. Over 70% of their capital ships destroyed, Henule replied. The rest are damaged and fleeing. They will not fight again for a long time. Admiral Kwan gave a single, slow nod. It was a huge victory, a historic one. But his next question was the most important one. And the lesson, Commander Lee? What lesson did we teach them today? Henule looked away from the screen for a second. Her gaze swept her bridge. She saw Park Jae coordinating recovery. She saw Kim Minji finally powering out her ghost map. She saw Song Hyen stretching his tired hands. She thought of the Cathari commander, Kor Vao, watching its perfect plan turn to ash because it did not understand how it was seeing Dot. She looked back at Admiral Kwan. We taught them that their greatest strength is now their greatest weakness, sir. They believe in hiding, in striking from the shadows where they cannot be seen. We taught them that in our space, there are no shadows deep enough, that the universe itself tells us their secrets. She paused, choosing her words carefully. They planned the perfect ambush for the human fleet they thought they knew, the one that blunders about with active scanners and loud engines. They did not plan for the human fleet that has learned to sit still, to listen, and to see in the dark. They did not know we had watched them set their trap. They did not know we had seen every move. Admiral Kwan's stern face softened, just a little. It was almost a smile. A good lesson. One they will not forget. Your crew performed with excellence, Commander. Give them my thanks. We will debrief in full when you return. Kwan out. The screen went dark. The formal report was over. Henule stood up from her chair. Her legs felt stiff. She walked to the large viewport at the front of the bridge. Outside, the peaceful nebula glowed. Its beauty returned. Tug ships, small and busy, were already moving among the wreckage, collecting survivors and valuable fragments. Park Jae came to stand beside her. He didn't speak for a while. They just watched the quiet aftermath together. They'll come back, Jae said finally. Different tactics. New technology. They will, Henule agreed, her voice quiet. But they will always wonder. Every time they turn on their cloak, they will wonder if the dark is really their friend, or if it is quietly telling us where they are. We have planted a seed of doubt in their minds. That is sometimes more powerful than any gun. She turned and looked at her bridge crew. They were tired, but their eyes were bright with the light of victory. You all did well today. You were calm. You were precise. You trusted the system, and you trusted each other. That is what wins wars. Not just the weapon, but the people who use it wisely. Get some rest where you can. We have a long trip home. She left the viewport and walked slowly off the bridge, heading for her ready room. Behind her, the crew continued their work, their voices soft, the ship humming around them. They had passed through the fire and come out the other side. They had looked into the supposed emptiness and seen the truth. And they had proven that the most perfect trap in the world means nothing if the hunter can see the trapper coming from a mile away.